Hello and welcome back to our third panel of the day, which is Secure Cloud Services. It's great to see so many of you dropping onto the gamification leaderboard. I hope that you're enjoying all the conversations that are taking place, and please do keep on engaging. It's a fantastic thing to be doing. Now, the public sector is in the process of one of the biggest digital transformations it has ever seen, with many organisations at different stages of their journey, resulting in a more digitally accessible sector. With the pandemic highlighting the need for migration to cloud services to effectively collaborate and to continue to provide public services, where do public sector leaders start to unlock value from their data safely and securely? With digital transformational change comes security challenges. And with the UK government's cloud first policy outlining the importance of cloud services, public sector organisations are under pressure to ensure secure cloud services. In this panel discussion, we'll hear from leaders on how secure cloud services underpin security and the access of data. I'm sure this is something that many of you will have questions about too, which I'm hoping we'll be able to put to the panel. But first of all, let me introduce our panel. We have Phil Longley, who is Head of Security at Airwalk Reply. Neil Sinclair is with Secure by Design Digital Security Providers Programme, Police Crime Prevention Initiatives, and hoping to join us too. We're having a few technical issues, but hopefully we should also have Jeff Denaro, who is Deputy Leader of Bromsgrove District Council. So welcome to you all, first of all. Thank you so much for joining us today. And as I mentioned earlier, we'd love to get your questions to the panel. If you're just joining us today for the first time, there is a Ask Your Questions box. If you could pop your questions in there, and if there's anyone specifically that you'd like to ask a question to, just write their name so I know. But just to kick us off, I wondered if the two of you, and hopefully Jeff will join us shortly, if you could just give us a brief introduction to who you are and what you do. So Phil, over to you first.
So hi, I'm Phil Longley, and as introduced, I head up the security practice at Airwalk Reply. First, a bit about Airwalk Reply. We're a digital transformation consultancy business based in the UK and Hong Kong, with expertise in delivering complex technology and cloud change programs across the financial service industry, as well as public sector clients. I've been embedded in some very large clients over the last 4 years, so hopefully I can bring that expertise to play in this session.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Phil. And Neil.
Thank you, Geeta. Yes, Neil Sinclair, Police Crime Prevention Initiatives. We are a police-owned, not-for-profit organisation, and my particular area is dealing with cybersecurity vendors and end users in particularly the small and medium-sized enterprise sector. And we work with vendors to certify their products so that the end user has a clearer idea of what is good. Something that we know is very difficult in the sector is that identifying what is good. But one of the things that I found out over the last 5 or 6 years is that you can give small businesses the very best advice, but then leaving them to go off and find the best solutions usually ends up with them doing nothing. Because they get very confused by the myriad of offerings out there, the different price points, and often the fact that most things that pop up on various search engines are American, so which is often a dissuader for them.
Thank you so much. Well, I thought maybe we could kick off with something that sounds like a very simple question, but is a good way, I guess, to outline really what we're talking about. So, Neil, what do we understand by the cloud?
So it's a very fundamental question, and of course we talk about the cloud quite blithely. Particularly everybody who owns an iPhone is storing everything in the cloud. But fundamentally, the cloud is a server somewhere sitting probably in a field or whatever, it is still a data store sitting somewhere. And I think often there is this feeling that it is just something in the ether somewhere. So from a security point of view, and we certainly see this all the time. People store stuff in the cloud and think that's job done, data safe, network safe, everything else. But it can't be seen like that. There is still a large amount of security around adopting a commercial cloud, building your own cloud, and all that sort of stuff, which I think needs to be absorbed by users. And we very much talk about building from the bottom up. We used to talk about building the stack, but now I think we need to focus on building our security from the very bottom, and that includes what we do with the cloud, how we utilize the cloud, how we adopt the cloud. We need to think about our security from day one, rather than having brought it in at a later date, once we're already using it. As you can probably ask any model or actor in Hollywood about their use of storage in the cloud, and find out how well that worked for them.
Well, I mean, I think you're right. So many of us, when we hear the word cloud, it does feel like this quite ethereal thing that you're doing, but you don't know how. And, I think that it's important to get the fundamentals to understand what the cloud is if you don't already know. And I wonder, based on what you were saying then, because maybe some of us do think, oh, it's up there, it's all okay. Is the cloud inherently unsafe?
It's not inherently unsafe. I think it becomes unsafe because of the poor choices that are made in adopting it, rather than the actual concept. So that initial belief that the cloud, we've heard apocryphally over years, the cloud is the safe place to store our data and all that sort of stuff. Well, the cloud that has been built with certain safety aspects incorporated into it. As with virtually anything that we do on the internet, there is safety somewhere. The important thing is that we use it, we turn it on, and we adapt it to what we're doing. So, whether we're storing masses of sensitive data, all data is sensitive, I guess, or we're using it off our own devices at home, whatever. The way that we build a security into that, we can't take it as a given that our stuff will be secure in that cloud. The cloud provider will make their server safe, but it won't necessarily make your data safe within it. That's a job you have to take on yourself. So yes, the cloud is fundamentally safe, but we have to learn to use it properly.
Okay, thank you. I know the cloud is storing about 1 trillion photos, which I probably will never look at again. But that's just my personal thing. But
that's all right, Peter, we're looking at them.
They're not that interesting. But I'm going to go over to Phil, and it's really great because we're getting questions coming in, so I will go to those questions. But Phil, just to kick us off, kind of following on from what we're talking about, how significant is a well-planned identity and access management approach to maintaining robust cloud security?
That's a great question. So getting identity rights should be the first priority when you move into the cloud. Some organizations tend to start and finish with just single sign-on and leave everything else to the built-in tools in the cloud providers. In some circumstances, this approach may be good enough, and single sign-on is a very good start in that area. However, identity in the cloud extends from your people right the way through to the roles and policies that things, and when I'm talking about things, I'm talking about VMs, containers, could be serverless functions, or ETL services such as AWS Glue, the roles that they use within the cloud environment. So in your cloud identity strategy, it should also form part of your data perimeter. So when you need to consider how deep you go to protect identities and data in the cloud. So it's a significant building block.
And just because you mentioned it, what is data perimeter?
Well, again, when you're talking about a data perimeter in the cloud, the key issues and risks you're looking at are cloud data storage exfiltration, which is the one we all hear about, but also you're looking at misconfiguration and the risk of misconfiguration or adequate change control about what's going on. So unlike a traditional hosted solution, in the cloud extends way beyond the traditional network perimeter where firewalls were or are seen as the key defense. So the cloud data perimeter extends deep into your identity and access management space and extends to the sharing of credentials. So me sharing, but someone inside your organization sharing their credentials outside of where they should be used, to peering between internal networks, what you thought might have been secure at one point, through to the sharing of storage objects or machine images or backups. It can go quite deep. But to further complicate matters, the number of features that are released every month by the cloud providers can lead to changes to your data perimeter. So this extended data perimeter is no longer static at the point of design. So to maintain a current view of your data perimeter, you need to keep on top of these new features and assess if they constitute a change to your perimeter that you might have to react to in data terms or risk terms.
Brilliant. Thank you, Phil. And I'm just going to welcome Jeff Denaro to the room. Jeff, can you hear me?
I can now, yes, thank you.
Oh, excellent. I know what it's like when you're trying to desperately get online and there's issues, but thank you for keeping up and getting into the room. Jeff, we sort of started the discussion and I've got some questions that are coming in that I'm going to go to next. But before I do that, just a couple of, just a few things about yourself, who you represent, what you do, just so we have that.
Okay, well, I'm Deputy Leader of Bromsgrove District Council and Portfolio Holder for Finance and Enabling. And that means I pick up the IT portfolio. And that's the reason that I'm here. I'm not an expert on cyber security, but we deal with quite a lot of it. And as a public sector organisation, we're scrabbling to keep up with the attackers, I think, really.
Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. And I think your insight will be invaluable in terms of how you're managing that. But let me go to a question that we've got that's come in. It's for Matthew Friend, and I'll put this to the room. So whoever wants to answer, just I'll let you pick up. But Matthew asks, how can an organisation mitigate the risks of shadow IT that cloud has reintroduced?
So I can take a first stab and maybe the other two can follow up on this. So shadow IT, there's a lot of vendors that'll tell you that they have solved the problem of shadow IT in your organization by trying to track from looking at things like proxy logs or looking at something within your environment or on your laptops or in your devices to where these shadow IT services are being used. A lot of these are just the risks of allowing your staff to use the internet from their devices. So I don't think shadow IT is any different from allowing access to some of the mainstream sites, because the ability to leak data is the same there, whether you're posting on a forum, you're posting on a comment on a main newspaper. So clever people, if they want to get to leak data from your organization, if that's what risk you're looking at from shadow IT, is a general problem. But there are many products that will look at the mainstream shadow IT services, storage services, and this is probably where I can maybe Neil's areas covers this better.
I totally agree with what Phil says. I think it is not necessarily a cloud introduced problem. It is an Internet of Things problem, and we know that is a huge challenge for the DCMS, for example, are trying to push through a secured by design criteria, protocol, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, exactly as Phil says, I don't think it's something that we can pin at the foot of the cloud. Certainly the last 2.5 years with hybrid working from home, has increased the risks from shadow IT. And I think generally too, Phil touched on it really, it's all the devices that we use as individuals, which we don't think of necessarily as having shadow IT. Those things that when you download an app, what other app is it using to geolocate you, for example? And do you turn that off? Does your banking app need to know what your location is at any given time? It probably doesn't. If you've spoken to them and told them that you're going to be in Timbuktu, They don't need to see it every time you log on. So, it's all those sort of things that the world is throwing at us with the internet, the World Wide Web. The clue is in the name, really. That we need to continually think about. We continually need to have the conversations with our teams, with our IT teams. In Jeff's case, as he says, he's not an expert, but it's something that probably needs to be talked about every Monday morning at the stand-up. What have we downloaded that might now be affecting our network? I might be using something else. Is ordering our capsules has that access to our accounts team or our HR team or something like that. Just things that you don't normally think about. It is so complicated because, as everybody's already touched on, it changes on such a rapid basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, Jeff, this would be a great opportunity to talk to you really about, how does Bromsgrove District Council view cybersecurity?
Sorry, can you say that again? I didn't quite catch that. Yeah,
of course. No, just following on really, how does your organisation view cybersecurity?
Right, okay. Yes, I mean, shadow IT is a new one to me, so I've made a note for my meeting next week. So that's a good start. So cybersecurity is seen as an enabler, as something that supports our organisation's overall objectives rather than a standalone technical issue. We recognise that cybersecurity impacts on every aspect of our organisation, and particularly our residents, and also on our ability to deliver services to our communities. To ensure it is integrated into all our activities, we have included it in our organisational risk management. Then we have a dedicated cybersecurity group chaired by our CEO. So we do take it very seriously, and it is a problem.
And what are you most worried about as a council, Jeff, when it comes to?
I think because we've got so much information on our residents that, if somebody got into that, it would be disastrous, really. We have got to be secure. We cannot be anything else.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's why so many people have joined us today for that very reason.
Sorry, I was just going to say that I think the reason distributions that we've made, if you like, for the council tax payments and other, have brought those problems to light, because although direct debit deals with probably 75% of our residents, the other 25% do not necessarily have the ability to set up direct debits, and we've got to find ways of approaching them without giving away data information.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jeff. I'm going to take some of the questions that are coming in because I'm conscious we've got about 10 minutes left in our discussion. This question, and again, I'll put it to the room, whoever wants to pick up on it, just let me know. So this is from Sam Wright. Thank you, Sam, for your question. And Sam asks, many of the additional security features of cloud providers are chargeable elements and not turned on as standard. Whilst these are often provided as recommendations, would you agree it would help if these elements were included as standard? Perhaps one for Phil or Neil.
I'll let you kick off again, Phil.
Yeah, I can start. So, I mean, there are some places where and would it be okay? So, so there are some areas, especially in the in the area of identity and cloud, where the cloud providers have an edge. Only the cloud providers can answer some of the questions, the security questions. So should their investment in providing, I don't know, whether your credentials have been used outside of an organization, or whether one of your VMs is Bitcoin mining at this particular point in time, be a chargeable feature. I think the cloud providers would argue probably successfully that they've invested in those technologies, so to giving you security insights into those what are very high fidelity alerts of value. Now, I don't know about the difference in terms of the price uplifts, but they're definitely worth switching on. Where the cloud providers have got that unique edge, and they're the only people who can provide those insights, and they're providing high fidelity alerts, it's probably worth paying the money for those services. If over time, based upon the rules of competition, they'll get pushed down to the basic into the standard features as the cloud providers themselves compete on a product feature by feature basis. Neil, value or?
Again, Phil, you've nailed it, I think, and I think probably what Jeff has said about Bromsgrove Council is quite a good case in hand, really, as an example of this, because from what Jeff says, no, he's not technical, but he has the responsibility along with other things. But presumably, what Jeff was in for, he's now added the cyber aspect to that portfolio. So I think it is very difficult for any business moving to the cloud or adopting cloud and the security around it to know exactly what they want. Now, one of the key things about any transformation should be knowing what you want, being able to say to your cloud provider, your managed service provider, whoever it is that you're using, this is what we need, this is the kind of business that we do, and this is the security we would like around it. Unfortunately, the majority of businesses, and I'm talking 5.8 million businesses, 98% of those don't know what they need to protect, how they need to protect it, what's vulnerable. They just don't. It's not. I don't, and it's my day-to-day job. So that actually integrating would be an enormous cost. So I don't think it could be. It couldn't be introduced at the right scale, as the question was leading to. Shouldn't they all be switched on? Let's say you buy a Mac and the antivirus isn't switched on. You have to do that yourself, and I don't think that's something that the industry is ever going to overcome unless we can get, for example, the NCSC or the cyber resilience centres around the regions to offer it as a service through academia and what have you. But then would actually business be happy to take that? I suspect they would turn around and say, well, we don't want the police and the government all over our business. So I think the question is, in theory, yes, it would be great. In practice, ain't never going to happen.
Not everyone needs those services, and the headline price has to be low.
Yeah, and it would the fact of having some of those services when you don't need could slow down what you're doing. Does your series of high street hairdressers, for example, who all have a cloud-based service for their calendars and their invoicing, do they need all those protections? No, they don't. But then equally, if you're a hedge funder and there's just 3 of you in the office, then you clearly probably do need those because the risks are so much greater and your attack profile is greater. It's one of those awkward questions.
No, thank you for that. And actually, Jeff, I thought it was a really interesting point that Neil made, is that of course you're a councillor and you didn't take that position to deal with cybersecurity. I don't think that was the first pressing issue and the reason why you joined the council. But I wonder, how do you encourage a good cybersecurity culture in your organisation, given that might not be the first priority for everyone?
Right, thank you. I mean, the other thing is we are on a drive, as every council is, to be digitally friendly with most of our residents, and that isn't always possible because a lot of them do not have the facilities to join with this digital. So we've got to make sure that we retain a normal means of transmission with them. But good cybersecurity isn't just about having good technology. It's also about people feeling able to raise security concerns at all levels in the organisation. To encourage this type of culture, the Cybersecurity Group has representatives from a variety of service areas and levels within the organisation. A comprehensive cybersecurity training plan is being delivered, and random organised cybersecurity phishing email exercises are undertaken to identify where extra support may be needed. Ensuring we share positive security messages, like how many people reported the phishing email, rather than how many people clicked on it, is key to developing a good cybersecurity culture. And I was probably ones who clicked on it but didn't respond. So I fall into that trap, unfortunately.
I think it's interesting from Jeff has said that the CEO is part of the cyber panel.
Yeah.
And that was great to hear, because often that can be an issue, is getting the CEOs, the C-suites buy-in to those requirements that either an IT team sees or the MSP recommends, or people lower down the pay chain, let's say, identify. And I think that is one of the big issues around any kind of digital transformation, is being open to the whole of the business as to where the weaknesses may be. It's very easy for the people who make the ultimate decision to say, we should be doing this, let's just do it and install it, and it doesn't work for the rest of the business. So those are the sort of questions that need to be had around any kind of digital transformation, but particularly when adopting security in the cloud and what have you. Because it's quite likely that the last person through the door has the best tech knowledge. And there's no reason why you shouldn't be asking the post team, for example, what's important to them. So all good points. And Jeff is living the, I won't say the dream, maybe living the nightmare.
Well, I lived the nightmare when the server room caught fire.
Oh dear. Well, look, we've only got about a minute and a half left. So I've got one question, which I'm just going to throw into the room. Haven't got a lot of time, so I appreciate you can't get into the nuance of it. But this is from John Loxton, and he asks, what provision is there around vendor lock-in so we can more easily switch between cloud services?
Okay, I'm going to take a quick approach to this one. So you really have to trade off vendor lock-in versus if you want to take advantage of the scale, agility, and cost savings of cloud, then the cloud service providers have made significant investment in accelerating your cloud journey. Now, if you want to put that aside and go with a cloud neutral approach, that's a big trade-off that you are making. Now you can make that trade-off, but you should make it on an informed basis. That I don't think any of the major cloud providers are going to go bust in the next. I just don't think that it's going to happen. So, what risk are you actually trying to mitigate by going against vendor lock-in? Neil, Jeff, it's probably across to you two to counter, if there is a counter.
Jeff, I am completely with Phil. I have nothing to add to what Phil has said.
No, I haven't either.
Okay, so,
Go, Phil. You get the last
one. Anyway.
Yeah, it's definitely about investments, but I think getting value, getting value out of your cloud programs and getting those applications up and running, and reducing cost is probably a bigger driver in the public sector at the moment than, I mean, maybe with some national, maybe some that might be some design considerations with some applications in the cloud that might.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up there. I know we could talk further. I feel like this is a subject that is definitely not going to go away. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise, your insights, your experience, Phil Longley, Neil Sinclair, and Jeff Denaro. And we hope that you are enjoying the sessions. Thank you for all your questions. You can jump into the meeting hub where you can build connections with delegates, not only for this event, but also with delegates who sign up for future events. And don't forget, we are awarding the winners a feel good, or feel great, whichever you prefer, prize. So the more you engage, the more you have a chance of being on that leaderboard. And those who are in first, second, and third place, they can donate to More Trees charity. We'll be giving money to the charity on your behalf. So thank you once again for joining us. We are going to take a break now, but we will be back at 2 o'clock. So hope to see you then. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.